It's time for version 52 of the competitive Brawl Stars tier list. I made a rough draft tier list based off of version 51 and the balance changes along with new abilities and sent it to the pros. The pros right here then shared their feedback and pretty much I just did what they told me to do. I moved brawlers where they belonged, and so this tier list is made by the pros. And I'm going to make some changes to the tier list compared to previous versions. With over 100 brawlers, I'm not going to share the details of every placement, especially brawlers that aren't changing tiers since the last one and didn't get any balance changes or new OP broken abilities. This is going to save you time. It's going to save me time, so it's a win-win. I also want to do a better job at sharing when pros disagree with a brawler placement, because obviously people disagree. And I think this is going to be better, but I want to know your guys' thoughts and feedback, so let me know after you watch this video if you like this better or worse compared to last tier list. We're going to kick things off with the F tier. El Primo is staying in the F tier and Grom are staying in the F tier. These two brawlers tied with the most votes for one of the bottom 3 brawlers in the game. Mr. P is also moving from the C tier down into the F tier because of how many pros voted on Mr. P being one of the worst 3 brawlers in the game. Sam is moving from the D tier down to the F tier, also voted by many pros as one of the worst brawlers in the game. Jackie is staying in the F tier. She actually got a health buff, but she was still voted as the bottom 3 by many of the pros. Rosa is also staying in the F tier. That's the F tier. Quick and painless, right? Now let's go with the D tier, who also suck. Chuck is staying in the D tier. Doug is staying in the D tier. Hank is staying in the D tier. Tick is staying in the D tier. And Miko is staying in the D tier. Pretty much 0 changes in the D tier. Now we move on to the C tier. C tier brawlers also suck, but they have a little bit of use in some situations. Very rarely, not competitively most of the time. Okay, so Gigi is actually moving from the F tier up into the C tier. This is kind of a funny one because I feel like I've seen people arguing back and forth with where Gigi should be a lot online, and we had pros who voted for her to be clear up in the B tier. We had pros put her in the C tier. We had pros vote for her to be in the D tier. A lot of pros just assume that Gigi should be left in the F tier. Some things to consider with Gigi is that since 8-Bit, Meg, Griff, and Max are now very meta brawlers, Gigi can actually play pretty well into those brawlers. Is she the best? No, she's not. But she's clearly not the worst, at least according to some of the pros. She did still have a few pros vote for her to be in the bottom 3 brawlers. Very controversial. But one thing's clear, she's not higher than C tier. Eve is staying in the C tier, and Maisie is staying in the C tier. They didn't get any balance changes. Meta hasn't really changed too much for them, so that's where they're at. Okay, now we have the B tier brawlers. From this point on, brawlers are competitive in some situations. They're not going to be the best of the best in all of the situations, but to counter certain brawlers or on certain maps or modes, or to work well with the specific brawlers, they're competitive options. We're actually going to kick things off with Dynamite, who's moving from the D tier up into the B tier. Dynamite had a reload speed buff. There were some pros who voted for him to be in the C tier. Either way, it's clear that Dynamite's better than before. Mandy's going from the C tier up into the B tier. She got an attack damage buff, and her hard candy star power got a shield buff. Piper is staying in the B tier. She actually got a health buff and a damage buff to her maximum attack. One of the pros even told me though that she's almost unplayable because of how aggressive this meta is. So even though Mandy and Piper both got buffs, this is as high as they can go right now. Clancy is moving from the A tier down into the B tier. So Clancy had some buffs back in March, so he went from the F tier all the way up into the A tier and then was nerfed in April. And it's taken a little bit of time, but he's finally settling into the B tier. A tier may have been a little bit of an overestimation for Clancy, but that was a couple months ago. So this seems to make sense for Clancy. Bonnie's going from the C tier up into the B tier. This is because of an attack damage buff she got. Nani's staying in the B tier. Ollie's staying in the B tier. Bo is staying in the B tier. I actually tried bumping Bo up into the A tier because the casual tier list, people thought Bo was a lot better, but the pros were like very quickly like, Kairos, you don't know what you're talking about. A huge majority of the pros were like, put Bo back down in B tier. And this is because it's a really tanky and aggressive meta. I was a fool to think that he deserved A tier. Apparently. Fang is staying in the B tier and B is staying in the B tier. Belle's also staying in the B tier. Draco's staying in the B tier. Buster's staying in the B tier. Janet's staying in the B tier. And Shelly is staying in the B tier. Shelly actually got a buff to her Shell Shock star power and her fast forward gadget, and I was expecting her to go up a little bit because of how aggressive and tanky the meta is, but apparently she is staying in the B tier. One of the pros even suggested moving her down to C tier. Daryl is staying in the B tier. Frank is staying in the B tier. RT is staying in the B tier. RT technically got an attack damage buff while he split, but that was to counteract the fact that Brawl Stars had fixed a damage bug that was going on. So RT's where he was basically. No changes for Sandy staying in the B tier. Mo's also staying in the B tier. Melody is staying in the B tier. Gabe Bull is moving from the A tier down into the B tier. He hasn't had any balance changes. He's just outclassed by other options. Still has a place in the meta though. Trunk staying in the B tier. Barley's actually moving from the C tier up into the B tier. Barley had a buff to how quickly his super and hypercharge super gets thrown out, and that was just enough to bump him up. Sprout's staying in the B tier. Larry and Laurie are staying in the B tier. Juju is moving from the A tier down into the B tier, and Ziggy is staying in the B tier. I just mentioned actually 5 throwers in a row. So Sprout actually got a reload speed buff, an attack damage buff, a lawsuit remodel. Like, pretty much Sprout's a completely different brawler now. Just kidding. Then you have Larry and Laurie who got super damage buff. Laurie got an HP buff. Juju also got a buff to the health of her spawn, and she went down a tier, which is interesting. Basically what's happening right now is this meta is very aggressive, tank heavy. Enemies like Nori and other brawlers that have really good like dashes or movement abilities are just really oppressive to these throwers, and a large chunk of these throwers are just ending up right in the B tier because they don't have ways to work in every single draft, you know, but they still have their place, especially if you can draft with them the correct way. Pam is staying in the B tier. Jessie's moving from the F tier up into the B tier. She got a buff to her projectile speed, which has made her a very strong last pick, especially into like control brawlers and stuff like that. Projectile speed, man, it's enough to bump you up all the way from F to B. Oh my gosh, whoops. Squeak is staying in the B tier. Amber's staying in the B tier. Penny's staying in the B tier. No changes for them, balance changes or massive meta changes either. Buzz is moving from the D tier up into the B tier thanks to a super and hypercharge rate buff. More super, really good for Buzz. Tara's staying in the B tier even though she got a reload speed buff. It wasn't enough to move her up into the A tier. Colt's staying in the B tier, though one pro suggested moving Colt up to the A tier. BB's moving from the A tier down into the B tier. The boost that she got from her home run star power was nerfed, and apparently that's all it took for her to get knocked down a peg. Gray is staying in the B tier, even though he got a speed buff to his grand piano gadget and an attack damage buff. I actually tried putting him up into the A tier, but enough of the pros voted him back lower that I put him near the top of the B tier. But honestly, he could be B tier or A tier. In fact, a lot of these next brawlers really could be B tier or A tier. There were pros arguing for both options. Ash being one of them, moving from the C tier up into the B tier, though 3 pros did argue for A tier. This is because he gained a tank trait, allowing him to charge his super with damage, but his hypercharge actually got a slight nerf. Jae Young is staying in the B tier, really could be either A or B. Poco is staying in the B tier, though there was one pro who actually voted for A tier. Very strong on Hot Zone and Brawl Ball, especially with the right bans right now. Mortis is moving from the A tier down to the B tier. He got a nerf to both of his gadgets, which impacted things, and he's really close to A tier. Sirius is moving from the A tier down into the B tier. He actually had a health nerf back in May, and then there was this weird health bug with his shadows that got fixed. There were a couple of pros arguing for A tier, but he seems to be pretty close on the edge. So let's now talk about A tier brawlers. These are the very competitive options right now. They're good in a lot of different situations. They're more versatile typically than the B tier brawlers, but they're just not quite as good as the S tier brawlers. We'll start off with some brawlers that really could have been A tier or B tier. Kicking us off with Gus, and there was actually one pro that recommended moving Gus all the way down to the C tier. So but most people just left him where he was. So we're going to go with the A tier. Najee is actually moving from the S tier down to the A tier. She received a super recharge nerf and a hypercharge snake health nerf as well. And those 2 nerfs have just toned her down, especially with the really oppressive, aggressive meta right now that she struggles against. She's not quite as broken as she used to be. There were a couple pros that recommended moving her even down to the B tier. So she's on the edge of A or B. Mina is staying in the A tier. She actually got a nerf to her windmill gadget and her 3rd attack damage. And a couple of the pros recommended moving her down into B, but enough of them agree with keeping her in A that we are keeping her in A tier. Barry is moving from the C tier all the way up into the A tier. This is actually one that I didn't expect here because Barry didn't receive any types of balance changes or anything like that. So asking the pros, basically what's going on is he can play in some really interesting compositions. But what's interesting about Barry is that he can actually play as a thrower against aggressive brawlers because of the knockback and the movability of his super. He's extremely good into assassins and also control compositions. Can be played in Brawl Ball, Hot Zone, even some bounty and heist maps. We had a lot of pros arguing for going from C tier up into B tier, but some even skipped up into the A tier. There were enough votes for A tier that I erred on the side of Barry's really good right now. And again, this was not expected, especially where so many throwers are struggling in this meta. Jean is staying in the A tier with a couple of votes for B tier. Ali's staying in the A tier for with a couple of votes in the B tier as well because of how aggressive and tanky the meta is right now. Gale's moving from the B tier up into the A tier thanks to a super damage buff that he got. I didn't think the buff was going to be that good, but with so many aggressive brawlers right now, I guess Gale's finding a spot. Spike is staying in the A tier. He had an attack damage buff, a super charge rate nerf, his fertilized healing got buff, and he's staying exactly where it was, with one pro voting him down to the lower. Kaze is staying in the A tier. No changes for her. Nita is also staying in the A tier. Pearl is actually moving from the B tier up into the A tier because of a buff to how much heat is consumed when she attacks. So she's better. More consistent damage is good for Pearl. Lou is moving from the B tier up into the A tier. He got a buff to his projectile size, so he's a good counter to Meg, brawlers like Damien, Griff, Pearl, pretty much any tank, and Lou is being considered a lot more right now because of it. Kit's staying in the A tier. Charlie's staying in the A tier. Willow's staying in the A tier as another thrower who's good against assassins. Kenji's staying in the A tier. Lolo's staying in the A tier. Lily is staying in the A tier. Finks is staying in the A tier. Bolt is moving from the D tier all the way up into the A tier. I have to tell you about Bolt. We speculated wildly wrong with Bolt, but I want to just put this out here. I did a casual tier list and had people vote on what they thought Bolt would be before he was released. Look at this insane spread right here. Like, people had no idea where Bolt was going to be, and most of them, the most voted tier was actually D tier, okay? So yeah, Bolt at the time had not been released yet when I made the last tier list. The pros had not had a chance to be able to play him, and then he got, like, he was all over the place. He was definitely the strongest brawler in the game at the moment. It was crazy. Then he got a nerf to his attack damage, his super damage, super recharge nerf, his unstoppable star power got nuked to the ground, which is crazy. But then on top of all that, they added a hypercharge, and at the end of the day, Bolt has landed in the A tier. And I feel way better about this placement. To be fair, last tier list, I told you guys, I don't know where Bolt's going to be. He could be amazing. He could be terrible. And he definitely did land somewhere on that scale. So moving from the B tier is Stu all the way up into the A tier. This was actually, I was actually really surprised to see this, but so many of the pros were like, you got to move Stu up. He's so much better. He doesn't have a whole lot of damage, but his high mobility and his speed gadget being bugged apparently right now makes him even faster. The last time he had a balance change was actually clear back in February. It was a health buff, and what's really coming down to is he has really good mobility, and it makes him work really well in the hands of a skilled player as a counter to some of these assassins that can't close the gap. Yeah, Edgar's super strong. Who cares? Stu can stay away from him like it's like nothing, right? So anyway, Stu's got some place right now. Glowy is also moving from the B tier up into the A tier. He's got counterplay against assassins, and he's really strong with any type of open map or wall breaker composition. Ems is staying in the A tier. Cordelius is staying in the A tier. Byron's staying in the A tier. Angelo's staying in the A tier. None of these brawlers had any changes. Not much to talk about with them because they're just as good as they were before. Leon is staying in the A tier, even though he got a nerf to the health of his lollipop drop gadget. Meeple is staying in the A tier. I tried putting him down in the B tier because I thought his rage quit gadget nerfs was enough to put him down there, but the pros were like, nope, Kairos. This is why I talk to the pros, because they know the game better than I do. I do play every day, but I don't play as much as them. He's just a really solid brawler, good and against assassins, has decent range, really easy to hit your shots with him. Shade is staying in the A tier. Shade actually got a hypercharge charge rate nerf, but still A tier. In fact, I had Shade lower, and one of the pros was like, you got to put him in the top row of A tier because of how good Shade is right now. Ruffs is staying in the A tier, even though he got a hypercharge charge rate nerf. Carl's moving from the B tier up into the A tier because of a buff to Carl's attack damage. Colette is moving from the S tier down into the A tier. So Colette got a nerf to her Nah gadget. It got a cooldown nerf. Her mass tax, star power, damage reduction got nerfed. Her supercharge rate got nerfed. Then in a second set of balance changes, they nerfed her gotcha gadget duration of the charm by half of a second. Tons of the pros agree to move Colette down to the A tier because she's just not as good as she used to be. Chester's moving from the S tier down to the A tier. He got a nerf to the damage of his explosion super, which also includes his hypercharge explosion, and then 2 nerfs to his candy beans gadget. Rico, surprisingly, is staying in the A tier, even though Rico got some new buffies. One of the pros recommended moving Rico up into the A tier. It's not enough pro feedback for us to bump him up. Clearly, Supercell knew how to balance one of the Brawler sets of buffies. We gotta zing him when we can, you know what I mean? Otis is moving from the S tier down into the A tier. Still a very solid option, but there's so many other Brawlers competing for the S tier right now that Otis just isn't always the go-to pick anymore. Pierce is moving from the S tier down to the A tier, though there is some argument to leave Pierce in the S tier. He got a cooldown nerf to both of his gadgets, and he's just not as versatile as he used to be, though still very good. Okay, capping off the top of the A tier, we have Wendy. I just want to start this off by saying that this is a complete speculation on my part. The pros have not played Wendy. A lot of the pros haven't even played Nori yet, because Nori and Wendy and is Bolt in competitive play? I don't know. But anyway, the two newest Brawlers not in competitive play. The pros only start caring about them once they are in competitive play. So this is complete speculation on my end. I think that she's going to be really, really strong with how much health she has with her shield and the ability for her to also shield her teammates and reduce the damage. She doesn't do a whole lot of damage by herself, but I just think that there's a lot of versatility to her, and I think that the pro players are going to do a really good job at utilizing her, similar to how they really utilize a lot of other support brawlers like Max or Ruffs or Jay Young. I think she's going to be really good. There is an argument to be made to put her in the S tier. However, the S tier is just full of broken brawlers right now, so it's difficult for me to comprehend her being that good. We'll see though. Supercell has a way of surprising us sometimes, like they did with Bolt. Remember when we thought Bolt wasn't going to be good and then he broke the game? I remember. Okay, let's talk about the S tier brawlers. This is what you come to the tier list for. The best of the best. The broken of the broken. The buffied of the buffied. Kicking us off, we got Brock moving from the B tier all the way up into the S tier. So Brock got some buffies. Very strong buffies. Then his buffied rocket number 4 star power got nerfed. His rocket barrage gadget got nerfed. He went from being B tier to busted to more manageable. There were actually 2 pros who recommended putting him down into the A tier. So he's not as strong or as busted as some of the S tier brawlers, but there's definitely a good argument to leave him in the S tier. Lumi is staying in the S tier, even though her Grim and Frostbitten gadget got nerfed in both duration and size. There is 1 pro who recommended moving her down to the A tier. Next is Damien, staying in the S tier. Okay, so we all know the story of Damien. He was broken. He was busted. He broke the game, right? Then he got tons of balance changes in May, including a supercharge rate nerf to his attack. Then they made it so that his super speakers break after bouncing an enemy. The damage that his speakers actually deal they got buffed. That's right. The hypercharge damage that he does actually got nerfed. After all is said and done, still lands in the S tier. There was 1 pro who recommended moving him down into the A tier, but most of the pros agree Damien's still strong. Edgar, staying in the S tier. This is even though he got a nerf to his Let's Fly gadget and his Fisticuff star power. Oh my gosh. And his hypercharge charge rate. 3 nerfs and he's still in the S tier, people. My boy Griff is moving from the A tier up into the S tier. My complaints worked. Literally, I was so disappointed that that Griff's trio set of balance change or buffies, like Griff was the 1 brawler with buffies that didn't actually move him up into the S tier, and I guess I complained loud enough. I didn't actually go to Supercell and complain to them directly, by the way, but I guess the community feedback was that Griff needed to be a little bit stronger. He got a buff to his coin shower gadget, the damage and the cooldown and the duration of it. He got a nerf to his piggy bank gadget, but what really changed things for Griff was his keep the change star power, okay? His second star power used to be the go-to option, but keep the change is just so much better. Being able to fire off 4 shots in the same time that he's used to be able to fire 3 is just really, really good. You definitely need his buffies in order to make Griff feel like an S tier brawler, but enough of the pros agree that he's S tier to put him near the lower half of the S tier. Next, we got Crow staying in the S tier. Okay, so Crow got some changes, right? His poison duration got nerfed. His reload speed got nerfed. His attack damage actually got buffed to offset the poison stuff. And then his health got nerfed. His hyper buffy got nerfed. Then he got an attack damage nerf after they buffed it. so that it's actually right in the middle of what it was before they buffed it and what it was after they buffed it. A lot of stuff is going on with Crow, but Crow is still very good in the lower half of the S tier. Up next, we have Nori kicking off his debut in the S tier. Now, again, I want to add a very important disclaimer here that not all of the pros have actually spent a lot of time playing with Nori because Nori's not available in competitive yet. That might be a little bit confusing to a lot of you who are like, what are you talking about? Lots of people could unlock Nori and play Nori in ladder right now, right? Well, yes, that is an option and people can do it. Not all the pros actually do that though. They only care about their next match, and their next match does not involve Nori. So some of the pros did weigh in on Nori, but a lot of them didn't. So this is definitely still up to speculation, but it's clear that Nori is very strong and in fact might be the strongest brawler in the game right now. In some ways, Nori is just a better Edgar, except that he doesn't self-heal very well, right? He does have a heal gadget, which seems to be pretty good, but yeah. I don't think that Nori is the best in the game, and we actually had one of the pros that did respond and say, yeah, not the best in the game, but still very excellent. So overall, I feel pretty good about Nori being in the top 5 or 6 in the S tier. Next, we have Meg moving from the B tier up into the top 5 S tier brawler. So buffies. Meg got new buffies. Then her toolbox gadget, supercharged duration, got nerfed. Her Buffy jolting bolts gadget got a duration nerf. Her Mega's attack supercharge rate got nerfed. Her Buffy hypercharge main attack supercharge rate got nerfed by 60%. And she's still in the top 5. Definitely weaker than Max and 8-bit and some of the other really broken new Buffy brawlers, but a very strong option right now, especially in the hands of the right player. Star Nova is staying in the S tier. So Star Nova's debut wasn't as spectacular as I think Supercell typically likes their new brawlers to be on launch. She was good, but she wasn't as broken as we all thought that she might be. After that, Supercell gave her an attack damage buff, a health buff. Her mystical star technique, star power got a healing buff. Then they nerfed her attack damage, then increased her supercharge rate so that it would be the same after they nerfed the damage. After all of those changes, I actually tried moving Star Nova down to the A tier. That was a massive mistake and was the biggest backlash that I got from the pros. She is clearly S tier and way better than I thought she would be after all of those changes. One of the pro players even said that she is the best brawler in the game right now in the hands of a good player. Definitely top 5 right now, almost always banned or picked first. And all of this is before her hypercharge bit has been released. So yeah, she's gonna be really good. She wasn't quite voted as top 3. Now every tier list I have the pros vote on like their top 3 brawlers. She wasn't voted as frequently as the next 3 brawlers, but she very well might become the best brawler in the game once her hypercharge releases. Kicking off the top 3 though, we have 8-bit moving from C tier all the way up into top 3. This is Buffy's. Even after extra credits got nerfed and a boosted booster star power nerf and a hypercharge charge rate got nerfed, yeah, 8-bit's still up there in the top 3. Max is moving from the B tier up into the S tier. Again, Buffy's, despite the nerf to her hypercharge main attack supercharge rate, she was actually tied with our next brawler for the #1 most votes of top 3 brawlers by the pros, if that makes sense. And that #1 brawler is Surge, moving from B tier up into the S tier with a very close tie. They're really close to each other. I would say Max is definitely tied with Surge in the pro tier list, but outside of the pro tier list, I think Surge is a little better. Just because Surge is easier to play when you're not playing with teammates that you can talk to over comms, right? So obviously these top 3 brawlers, they all got new buffies. I should also mention that Surge did get a buff to his movement speed when he's level 0, but then he got a cooldown nerf to his power shield gadget, a hypercharge range nerf, and then his buffied hypercharge main attack, second shot damage got nerfed. His hypercharge projectile damage got nerfed. And after all of these nerfs, he is arguably the best brawler in the game right now due to his buffies. One of the pros told me the only way to beat him is to outrange him. And I think that that's actually pretty fair. I think that Surge single-handedly could be the reason why Nori isn't #1 right now, because Surge counters him so well. But yeah. And there you have the competitive tier list. If you grab a screenshot and share it with anyone, make sure you don't crop my face out. I'd really appreciate that. Also, let them know that this tier list was made by the pros. This wasn't me. These are not my opinions. I am just the messenger who has brought their opinions together to share it with all of you. So massive thank you to all these pro players who helped out. If this was helpful, I would really appreciate you guys using code Kairos the next time you make a purchase in Brawl Stars or in store.supercell.com or any other Supercell games. My credit code works in Clash of Clans too, people. I really want to know what you guys thought about this change of pace for this tier list. I sped through a lot of the brawlers who didn't change, tried to focus on the ones that actually matter the most, and I'm really eager to know what you guys think. So let me know down below. We'll see you in the next video.